Okay. Everyone, thank you for taking time to join me for this presentation on Agile BI. Basically, I'm just going to go through a brief PowerPoint just to discuss the topics for Agile BI, and then we'll go through a demonstration. I don't intend this taking on any more than about a half hour, 45 minutes, and just allow you to grasp some of the concepts of the Agile BI methodology with the Pentaho BI suite. So what is Agile BI? In a nutshell, it could be described as a quick, iterative approach to building business intelligence applications. But at the same time, as building these applications, you'll be collaborating with the business users or with those who have the users' requirements. And it allows you to go through a process that enables feedback, also enables you to visualize data quality issues and understand the outcome of the resulting application while you're actually building it. Pentaho Agile BI actually brings together the different core competencies of data integration and content delivery by allowing ETL, which is the movement and transformation of the raw data, visualization, which is the tools used to visualize the data, and then data modeling, which are the tools used to build the business layer, or what's commonly called the semantic layer. And this is all under one integrated development environment that we call Agile BI, which is actually part of the Pentaho data integration tool set. Okay, so these are just some of the top areas of Agile BI and their benefits. So an iterative approach to building BI applications. Throughout the process of building an application in the demo, you'll see me access data, enrich the data, visualize the data. If there are changes that need to be made, I can go back to the data integration process, let's say, and make my additional changes, such as enriching it, deriving new calculated fields, fixing data quality issues. Basically, transforming the data through the process is the iterative approach that you're going to use with the ETL portion of the BI suite in data integration. Then, obtaining immediate feedback from business users. When you're working with ever-changing needs of the business users, there's going to be requirements that change possibly on a weekly basis, monthly basis. It could even be a day-to-day basis, depending on what they need. You can work alongside these users or alongside with the person responsible for the requirements, and you can see the feedback from the actual visualization perspective, which will allow you to actually look at the data visually or through a tabular type component, through charts or table rows and cells, and you can uncover areas that might need addressing. Recognition of data quality issues, same thing. Through that approach of visualization, you can see before deploying this application, the report, the chart, the analysis view, the model. Before deploying it to the particular individuals who are going to use it, you can get the recognition of data quality up front throughout the iterative approach of visualizing it and looking at the data. Finally, speed of development and deployment. Watching the demonstration, you'll see the process of actually going from data dashboards in a matter of minutes. Now, obviously, we're going to use a pretty simple use case or an oversimplification in that matter, but we can apply that to broader use cases in the industry. Let's share the desktop. Okay, and what you're going to see is I'm going to bring up the actual Spoon interface. Now, Spoon is the IDE or integrated development environment that is part of a data integration tool. So what I'm going to do is just adjust this. If your monitor cannot fit the whole thing within your view, just see if you could increase your resolution. If not, this session will be recorded and you can play back appropriately. The face you see here in front of you is the Spoon interface. It's part of our ETL tool. But you'll notice across the top there is a data integration perspective, a modeling perspective, and a visualization perspective. And these are the three parts that make up Agile BI. So to start the demonstration, what we're going to do is create a new transformation. And you'll see here a canvas opens where we can then begin adding our icons, which are just a palette of library components, which range from accessing a variety of data sources, transformations that allow you to enrich and make modifications and quote-unquote transform the data, output steps that allow you to output the data, and flow control and scripting, etc. I'm not going to go through all of these because this is not a data integration tutorial. This is just this understanding the concept of the Agile BI, but you can look at later tutorials and other ones that are on the sandbox as well if you want to learn more about data integration. So to get started, we're going to pull out a in-step, and we're just going to use Excel. So I'm going to grab Excel, and at the same time, maybe I have information inside a SQL database. So we're going to grab a table input. These are going to be my two input steps. So here we'll document this by just putting a new note and all that input data. Okay, and what we're going to use for Excel is I have a spreadsheet that contains information that we can use for this demonstration. It's going to be an oversimplification that basically contains a numerical metric, a location field, a date, and some category information. Here we're going to select the new no-cat fruit veg into the list. So this is just adding the Excel spreadsheet to the input step. We'll go to the Sheets tab. This enables me to do is pull out the Excel spreadsheet sheet. I specify content. We have a row, and we want to stop processing on any empty rows. You define the spreadsheet type. In this case, it's a regular Excel 97 2003 file. You can specify additional error handling, and then this is getting the fields from the Excel spreadsheet. So we have store ID, store name, sales, item, and sales date, and there's some profiling of the data that happens from sampling, and we can preview the rows so you can see the data that's available. Okay, so here's our store ID, our store name, our sales, our item, and our sales date. Okay, so that's grabbing data from Excel. So what I'm also going to do is we're going to merge this data from the table input step. So I'm going to actually show you two approaches, so just to give you an idea of how things can be done. I could use the table input step, and what we can do is select from a variety of connections that would be listed if connected and stored in a repository, or we can create a new one. And for demo purposes, I'm just going to show you how to create a new connection. So this name is going to be called test. You're going to see there's the host name, and we're using MySQL, so I have a MySQL server. The database is test, port name 3308, and username Pentaho user. Now, please understand, in order to connect to your data structure, you need to have the appropriate JDBC driver copied into the directory where Pentaho data integration is installed. So just to reference real quickly, when installing Pentaho data integration, in the data integration folder, there's a live external JDBC directory, and this is where you install and copy in the jar file, which would be the appropriate vendor-provided jar file. If you're not sure of the step, just watch the other tutorials in the series, and it does cover that. Okay, so let's go back to configuration. Okay, and we'll click test, and you can see that we have a successful test of the database. Now that we have our test connection, what I'm going to do is just get a SQL statement. What happens is in this database, I have some information that has regional information for each store. So think of it as kind of like a dimensional table. So if I preview those, you can see I got my store ID and I got my region, north, south, east, and west. Okay, using the table input component and a SQL query to basically get the information that I need. I can do a quick preview, and we can get the data back, and there we go. Okay, so now I have these two output steps. Now what we can do is we can merge these together by utilizing a join, and you can see there's a merge join. And then what we can do is together on a common key. And in this case, a common key is going to be the store ID. So the reason I want to show you this is a common way of how I can get data from one file and data from a database and merge it. But there's another step that we can do, and that's called the database lookup step. So here I'm just removing the table input and go to lookup and select database lookup. What this enables me to do is pull the information I need without having to go through a join or a sort process. So in this lookup step, I pull out the connection test. I say lookup table, navigate to tables, and we'll select the fruit regions table. And here I can say get fields. first we got to connect them together. So let's connect these together. Go back into the database lookup step, and we can do get lookup fields, and then we get fields from the stream. Okay, so what this means is that the streams are going to match on a certain key. In this case, we're going to match on store ID. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to match the actual ID field in the lookup table, store ID field within the Excel spreadsheet flow. Okay, and then the name that we're going to return is going to be region, so the actual region name. So this is what a database lookup can do for you. Now we're just giving a little bit of demonstration of just how you would use the ETL tool. And do a quick launch. Okay, and now see I have my new column from the lookup. And there's my region, so north, south, east, and west. All right. So now Agile BI part of this, what we're going to do is go into, let me just move sharing. Okay. What we're going to do is connect this to table output. And for argument's sake, we're going to use the same test connection. And then here we're going to select target table. So that was for my target table. And I have one already, I believe, called Fruit TechCast table. And what we're going to do, we're going to truncate that. And what you can do is you could execute the SQL, and what this will do is drop any of the fields that aren't in the flow, for example. So, for example, I didn't show you category, year, quarter, and month. That's already in there. So it's going to actually drop those and just modify the other columns that are in the database. Okay. That's my Fruit TechCast table, and it's already been created. Now, if I want to create a new one, and I'll just call this Fruit TechCast table new, and click on the SQL button, it'll recognize that the table does not exist. It allows me to now create that table from scratch. Okay, so I can just execute the DDL and then click OK. Okay, what you witnessed here is putting a target to an existing table or putting a target to a new table. Okay, what we'll do is we'll load this. So I'll run the transformation, and I can run it locally on my workstation, which is running on this notebook. You can also execute remotely, which means running on an ETL server and then publishing to the ETL server, and we'll cover that in the latest series. When we launch this, save this. And it'll execute, and you can see there are 72 records that have been outputted to the table. So the part of this is I can visualize this very easily by right-clicking on the output step and then selecting Visualize. And you can see we have what's called Analyzer and Report Wizard. What has been done is the reporting engine and the analysis engine have been integrated into the data integration tool to provide a visualization experience so you can actually test as well as create initial reports and analysis views and publish them to the BI server, the other part of our suite for content generation, content delivery. So if I select the Analyzer, this will bring me into an interface that we provide within our business intelligence suite, usually for web ad hoc query and analysis, but it's also been built into the data integration perspective called Visualize, which allows me to then start visualizing this data. So I grab my sales metric, and I can grab my item metric, and then I can start looking at the results and either working side by side with my business users, say, is this what you want to see? Is this the type of report you need? Is this all the elements you need in your report? And come back to you and say, well, I need to do some time series analysis. I need to use the data information for, say, to look at information by year, quarter, and month. And then items are great, but I need to have some more grouping, maybe a category. So you might be able to have that information in the database. They might say no. If not, we can derive it at runtime. So the approach I'm going to take here is now going back, and I'm going to close the visualization perspective. I'm going to go back to data integration. I'm going to pull in a couple of transformation entries that can help me derive new fields. So to transform, I'm going to have the value mapper, and I'm going to split the hop right there and create a new field. We're doing that by utilizing an existing field. So an existing field to use would be called item. Okay, an item we had apples, bananas, oranges, carrots, lettuce, peas. Well, that's the field we're going to look at. And then the target field is going to be brand new, and we're going to call that category. So what that means is as the source value comes in, apples, the target value will be fruits. And I'm going to repeat this for oranges and bananas. and here I'll just copy fruits and fruits. Okay, and then if it must be a vegetable. So that's a good way of, if you want to just relate it back to another item. Or you can actually put in carrots, lettuce, peas, vegetables, and then upon no matching, no match. And then if you ran the report, you got values with no match in it, then you would know you had a data quality issue and you would need to fix that. But for this case, we're just going to put vegetables here. Okay. Along development of this, I can right-click at any time and select Preview. So what I've done here is I'm just disabling. I'm doing debugging by disabling the hop. So I can choose any one of the hops, and I can say Enable Downstream, Disable Downstream. In this case, I just want to enable this hop and have this hop disabled. And then I can right-click on the step and select Preview. This will open up the Transformation Debug dialog. Perform launch, and now you can see the data sample. So we have now our new category column. To fix the time series request, we don't have a year, a quarter, a month in our database, and we don't have any time dimensions. So what I'm going to do for this example is just use a calculator step and insert between the value mapper and the table output. Now, if I click the calculator step, I simply configure what I want. So in here, I want a year, and then a quarter, and a month. And perhaps it even go by a week. So the names of the fields that I want. Field A is going to be the field that's in the stream. And you can see it automatically populates the fields that are in the stream. So we have a field called sales date. So what I do is just copy and paste that into field A for each one of these. So that's the real field I'm going to use. Now, the calculation is going to be, what are you going to perform on that real field called field A? Well, there's a variety of different calculations that range from date, numeric, mathematical, text, and even data cleansing. And each one of these can take an input and then produce a desired output. In this case, what we're going to do is look for the year extraction. So in the filter above here, I'm just going to look for year and select a year of date A. And do the same thing for quarter. And I'll do the same thing for month. And for week. And this will be the number of the week of the year. Okay, that's the calculation we perform. And the types that are going to come out of this is going to be numbers. So, going to be integers. And what I'll do is I can Control-C and then Control-V. I can just paste them in here. These, a year will have 4 places, quarter will have 1, month will have 2, and week will have 2. Conversion mask is placeholders for the elements. So there's 4 pound symbols, 1 pound symbol, 1 2-pound symbol, and 1 2. Okay, produces the year, quarter, month, and week. And at any time, you can preview, bring up the debug, and then do a quick launch, and now you can see your year, quarter, month, and week. Okay. So the next step we got to do, and the reason I disable the hops, you can see how the table output highlighted. That's because the year, the quarter, the month, and category don't exist. So that's just letting it know it's going through the process, and you can see here you'll get unknown category. So that's why I like to disable the hops when I do previews if I use table output steps. But we're going to go into the table output step, and we're going to generate the DDL or DML, the data manipulation language, and you can see it automatically generates the alter statements to add category, year, quarter, month, and week to the database. So we execute that, and that's been executed successfully. We're going to load the table. So upon loading the table, going to our Step Metrics tab, we have our 72 records loaded. And what I can do again is now go into Visualize, Analyzer. We can see that we have our new fields. Okay, but what I want to notice here is you have category and the item and month and quarter and then week and year. And you can see that week and year are also numeric and month and quarter are also numeric. What this does is take a best guess at the data type, and anything that's text or string, it puts as text, and anything that's numeric puts as number. But the number is supposed to be the metrics. This is a good approach at just initially testing the data. But the next thing you want to do is model the data. Now, immediately, if you have an existing data structure, upon using data integration, you can go right in and select Model, and that will automatically bring you into the modeling perspective where you can select a data source and then start utilizing that data source to model the data. And then modeling basically means, creating the business view, the business user, that the business user is going to use. But through the approach that we built into the data integration perspective, you can right-click and select model from here as well. Okay, so what that allows you to do is now drag and drop the appropriate dimensions, the who, what, where, and when, as well as the numerics. So with sales metric, I'm going to grab sales, and I'm going to drop it right on top of measures. And then rename this revenue. I could have renamed it along inside the data integration stream as well, but just to show you some of the features. Aggregation is going to be sum, and the format will have a $sign. Also going to take the sales date, and I'm going to drop that on measures, and you're going to notice that the sales date becomes an aggregation of count. I'll name this transaction count. So maybe I want to get the number of transactions that have happened for that particular date. So it's going to count all those dates and show me which transactions happened on that date. So those would be my metrics. Okay, now I have a category, and we'll drop that on dimension. That's our fruits and vegetables. And then I can grab item and also drop that on dimensions. And that's my apples, carrots, bananas, lettuce, peas. I could also grab item underneath category. And this creates a parent-child hierarchy that allows me to expand inside the analyzer tool automatically. So I could expand through the fruits and see all the fruits, or expand through the vegetables and see all the vegetables. Let's create time dimension by grabbing here and then dropping that on top of dimension, and then we'll call this time. And let's complete that dimension by also allowing you to expand through quarter, month, week, and then we could actually go all the way to the sales date if we wanted to. The limit or depth on the hierarchies. Now we have our region, which is our location dimension. So let's put that on top of dimensions, and we can call this location. And then through there we have our stores. So let's grab our stores and put that under region. Also put store name as a level hierarchy, just like I did with the item dimension. So if I want to aggregate by individual stores at different levels without having to go through the region first, I can do that as well. Okay, so our model is complete. So at this point, what we can do is practice to save out your model, the local copy to the location that you're developing on. And then you have the choice of selecting the analyzer or the report wizard to test it. So in this case, we're going to go to Analyzer and click Go. And we'll open up the visualization perspective. I can select View by category, and now I can choose my dimensions and measures. So if I wanted to see category, fruits versus vegetables, there's my revenue. Now if I wanted to look at stores as well, so let's grab our store name, and there's A, B, C, and D, and then create a very simple cross-tabular type report of fruits versus vegetables. If I wanted the regions in the front, and now we can see the differences between the regions. I wanted to also throw in, let's say, year, turn on some subtotals by right-clicking on the column header. So what you see here is the approach now of report building and testing and looking at the different data elements using the visualization perspective. At this point, what I'm able to do is this could also be an initial report I want to make available for somebody to use and modify. So what we can do at this point here is we can save out this report, and that's a copy of it locally. And then what we do is publish this to the BI server. Earlier in the series, or if you've watched the drills or spoken with any of us at Pentaho, you should know by now there's a Pentaho Bi Server component that is the execution layer for reporting, analysis, and dashboards, and also can be used for embedded reports and integration. This is the default Bi Server path. So I have the server running on my workstation. What I'm going to do here is just publish it to a location within the BI, or what's called the solution repository. So at this point, we're connecting to the BI server. And while that's happening, I'm just going to kind of show you what we're talking about. So here's my modified login screen, and that will bring into the user console. And you see this folder tree loading. Here is the solution repository for the view for the business users. Let's go back to the spoon perspective, which is the integration environment. You can see here the pop-up of the solutions. So what I do is just publish to an area I have here called temp work. What I'm going to do is publish the actual model for an analyzer report and the data connection. Now you can see the data connection name is test. That's what we named it. When you push the data connection test, what it's actually doing is publishing a BI server data connection. You can see the data connection test here. So you can add connections manually to your BI server, server-side data sources, or through Pentaho data integration. When you publish the model, it'll create one for you on the BI server as well. Okay, so let's click OK. Publish was successful. So that actually publishes the model as well as the name of the model was called, where's the name of the model here? Let's go up here. Was Fruit TechCast Table New. So if we go back into the Pentaho User Console that we've logged in with, click on Analyzer Report. From the list, you will see Fruit TechCast Table New. So this is the model been published from the Analyzer view. So now, from a web-based perspective, I can go in and I can start creating reports from scratch from that model. Now, at the same time, any of the reports that I published from the Agile BI interface can also be accessed through this means, as well as being displayed. So if we navigate to temp work, you're going to see there's the fruits and vegetables analyzer. And if I execute that, there's the report that we created a moment ago inside the data integration perspective. So as an analyst, if I had access, I can now go and manipulate and say, well, I don't want to look at category, and I want to turn this into a chart, or whatever have you. Okay. So what we do next is I want to go back and show you the report wizard, and also show you the other part of the reporting metadata that's published. So what we can do is go back from the model perspective. I was in the visualize perspective and publish, but we can also publish directly from the modeling perspective. And when we do that, you select the location that you want to publish to, and what this will do is not only publish the analyzer report metadata, but it also publishes the reporting metadata to be used with the simple doc tool or the dashboard designer. But before we do that, I'm actually going to go through a different perspective and show you the report wizard. So now I'll select the report wizard, and this will allow me to use the same model that we designed here, but now it goes through a step wizard that allows me to create an operational or enterprise report. So operational enterprise reports being static in nature, possibly parameterized, usually to answer common questions, can be scheduled, distributed, and emailed. It's easily accessible from the Pentaho User Console or from other integration and embedded methods. This allows me to set up an initial report that can be published or can also be edited with the Pentaho Report Designer. So here I'll select the template Pentaho, click it for the query, and then here's my particular elements. So here we'll select revenue, and then we'll select, let's say, store name, and we'll also select items. Okay, we have our revenue, we have the different stores, and we have the different items. So let's just go like that. And then I'll put my store name here, and we'll put some items here as order by. We can preview alt set, and you can see the store name, item, and revenue. Click OK, and that's our query. Okay, step 3 allows you to adjust layout. So what I want is store name to be at the top level group, and then I want all items for each store, and the revenue to be displayed. And step 4 basically allows me to make some modifications to the header. So I'm going to call it store name. I'm going to put a colon and a space, so the store name fits right after the header label. And then item, what we can do is we could get a count on the number of items for each store, as well as do a sum of the different revenue for each store. And we also change some formatting options here. Now, formatting does get respected in the model, but you can also force formatting here as well. Okay, we can finish. And now we have the operational report developed directly within the Pentaho data integration tool. And what at this point is we can publish it. So it wants us to save it. So let's save a local copy. And at the same time, what we're able to do is publish this to the BI server can browse. In this case, it's going to go to the temp work location. Publish has been successful. Okay, and then we go here inside the temp work location, and we refresh the solution repository. That report will be displayed, as well as allowing me to now use that part of the metadata with inside the dashboard designer. So if I select new dashboard and chart, this is going to bring a list of all the metadata models that are available inside the BI server, and then including the new fruit and veg model that we just published a moment ago through the Agile BI perspective. So there's fruit TechCast table new. And this is the query editor, which will enter that model. Just saw in the report wizard, but now it's through a thin client interface that allows me to create a data table or a visualization in the use of a dashboard. So if we want to just plot revenue by different regions and then by the different stores in those regions, click OK. And we select it as a bar, horizontal bar, line, area, pie, or dial. And then our series in this case will be the regions, our categories will be stores, and our value column will be revenue. We can change the theme in this case. Let's just change it to primaries. And we can click OK. Now we have a simple bar chart. Okay, any of those reports that we executed. So here's the fruits and vegetables report through Analyzer. I can take this report and I can drag it and drop it right into the dashboard as such. And then here's the fruit and veg PRPT, the operational report that I can drag and drop and put it right in the Untitled 3 page. Obviously, oversimplification of the development of this. I mean, within 30 minutes or so, we went through extracting data, looking up data, enriching it, outputting it, modeling it, and then making it available in the dashboard. Through other tutorials and discussions with Pentaho staff, we'll definitely get you to the level where you want to be. But this is the concept of Agile BI, the quick iterative approach of developing BI applications. You to access the data very easily, model it, and publish it, and make it available to the users. Now, the thing that I wanted to cover within Agile BI is that we've covered Agile BI from the perspective of a developer. Okay, so just to reiterate, we went through an ETL process, we went through a model process, and we went through a visualization process by both using the Analyzer and the report wizard. Business users can actually use the concept of Agile BI as well by simply creating a new data source. Within Pentaho 3.7, if they have access to the Pentaho user console and their credentials have been set correctly, by selecting new data source, this allows somebody to actually enter in a SQL query or enter or upload a CSV file. So here I'll just call this my finance data. And in fact, the database, I can actually choose the different data connections and start typing in a SQL query to return columns. But most commonly, what we can do is utilize a CSV file, import and browse. And then what I'm able to do here is select through the evaluations, go to, let's see, I think I got data in the C drive. Okay, and let's go to destination. Okay, and you're going to see that any CSV file with a header row. So let me pull out one of these here. Here's my new file, CSV. Click import. Okay, and now you can see that data, store name, sales, category, item, and sales date have been imported into this particular thing. So without using the data integration tool, I'm able to upload the CSV file into the BI suite. Now there are limits. There are limit settings. The BI admin will be able to identify those, but you can import this and use it as a throwaway BI scenario, if you will. So if I click next, it'll go through. You can see we've got our store name, sales, category, item, and sales date. And we can click finish. What we'll do is upload the file. It'll load it into a temporary staging table that is part of the BI system, which you have full access of modifying, or the BI admin can set up how the staging table is used. Okay, and then we can keep the default model, or we can customize the model. So not only does it upload the data and load it, but it also creates the model that you've seen based off the selections you modified, and allows you to make changes to that using like a thin client version of that Agile BI that you saw a moment ago. So here it interpreted my sales figures. Well, let's grab the sales data again and drop that underneath measures. We can call that transaction count. Okay, and then we can name sales revenue, lead aggregation, and then make the format the dollar. And then here, obviously, we don't need sales. We got our sales day, we got our store name, but you'll notice the approach here. I don't have years, quarter, months, and weeks, right? So that wasn't in my CSV. So you can see some of the importance of the data transformation and why you would use the ETL approach to basically get the data in the format needed for reporting and analysis. The C file didn't have that, but I can still use it for other dimensions, such as the category and the store name, etc. So I'm just going to OK here. And what this will do now is make the modifications to the model. It'll make this model available to me to start using the analyzer or the dashboard designer. So select new analyzer report, and then down, you're going to see, what did I call it? Let's call the name of that model. So let's go to Final, Manage, Data Sources. I called my finance DTA because I was going to be using that. That's it. So apologize. So there's the data structure that I created, my finance DTA. And you can see it's available here as well. And we click OK. And our category, there's our revenue, and there's our stores. Okay. So just a quick approach to allowing a non-technical user the ability to upload a CSV file into their system. This is actually in more detail in a tutorial underneath the pre-sale sandbox. So where you're viewing these recordings and these tutorials, the sandbox is one of the main areas for helping an evaluator owned and operated by the sales engineering team. There is a section here under the live techcast where sessions like these will be recorded, but there's also a section here under tutorials. Go to tutorials, and you go to the tutorial extra data access and 3.7 new features. You can go through that process and test the upload wizard. And you can even download a sample data file here if you like. Okay, so that's all I had today for the Agile BI capability. I'd like you to join us next week where we're going to be discuss how to make your evaluations successful by evaluating the Pentaho BI suite and what things you should know, best practices, and people you should be talking to. Thank you for your time, everyone. Hope to see you in person. Take care.